not there yet. So we went way back to basics, learned all about the inquiry cycle together because we were at varying degrees of understanding of the inquiry cycle. So it was a great opportunity for us to come together because I was relatively new and some other people were relatively new, so it was nice to.
We relate a lot to those squirrely images that were
Yeah.
first half of our year felt like.
Started it off with scan.
So with scanning, I think Katie shared most of this with you in the fall. So I'm just going to jump to what we sort of stumbled into as we were saying, well, is it because of the way we're teaching, or is it because we're not paying enough attention to conventions? And what we realized is it wasn't really any one thing, it's a lack of writing quality and stamina in general. It's not that they haven't collectively not learned the lessons, some haven't, but it's not a collective thing that way. It's the stamina and quality, and we think possibly connected to making sure they understand why they're being asked to write. So that's sort of where we landed up after a lot of really good conversation. Yeah.
So we came up with a really clear focus, keeping in line with our strategic plan and using student achievement, the student achievement pillar. Our aim is to develop whole school methods to improve the quality of student writing and the stamina through thoughtful, purposeful, consistent instructional practices all together.
So developing a hunch. We had a lot of hunches. There were so many hunches, and a lot of them are here. I think the big ones were, we need to, you heard a lot tonight about what's our part in it. We need to make sure that we're clear on what they have learned before they set foot into the next grade's classroom. We need to make sure that they're clear on what and why they're learning what they're learning, or what we're hoping they're learning. We took a look at, are we, in our busy days with all the curriculum and all those things, are we making sure that we're providing enough authentic opportunities for students to work on oral language? So we really connected to what Jason was talking about before, and that show and tell piece, absolutely. Like, you could think of show and tell as artifact discovery. It doesn't have to use the language of show and tell. Are we creating purposeful and authentic times for students to write? And what does that look like for different students? Are we providing purposeful feedback? This is huge. Are we providing purposeful feedback? And again, what does that look like? And we've, without going forward, we've got some ideas that we're kind of playing around in our heads with. And could we adjust the timing of writing opportunities throughout the day? And could that lead to different results? Particularly in primary, we get really hung up on literacy has to be in the morning. Literacy has to be in the morning blocks. They're sharp and they're with us. What if it doesn't? And what might the impact be of looking through different ones? Learning. Okay, so because it took us a little while to get going, as Katie mentioned earlier, we did get we've dipped our feet into the pool a little bit here. Adrian Gear was in our building. That was really, I think, positive and energizing for a lot of teachers. It was really affirming too that this isn't necessarily about what are we doing wrong and what do we have to change, but how do we tweak what we're doing, how do we adjust it to where we're at right now, how do we make what we already know is really good practice more effective for the students that are sitting in our classrooms right now. OT has been involved because some of the things we've noticed is there is a physical piece. There's a physical component for some children with the ability to get ideas from their brains onto paper. So Andrea's been working with us there, and we've got some sort of fledgling plans in place for that. Adrian here led us to believe that we could take a look at clotheslines, which I know is not a new idea, but we can take a look at those for how we help kids move themselves along with exemplars. So we're pretty excited about how we're going to develop that with shared language through the grades. We want to look at brain-based assessments. We've already started taking a look at the components of the brain connected to Adrian Gear's work, where it's not scientific, but it's still really meaningful. We've just started our resources. We've started with some writing prompts. Katie's ordered some sort of visual prompts, as well as some, sort of jumping off points where there's provocations and things for kids to start writing, and we're hoping that will be more engaging, lead to improved stamina. And we started this year with a little more, and this is with some input from Andrea, but also things that Katie knew coming into this, a little more focused printing instruction for our early primaries, to see if that's going to help us with that physical block to write. Adrian Gear's idea pockets. This is what I was talking about. It's not the sciencey part of brain-based learning, but she has this pretty engaging idea of you've got pockets in your brain where you keep specific types of information that will inform specific types of writing. she works with it really heavily in primary, but it does go all the way up to the intermediate. But so we take a look at our imagination pockets, which is that story writing, our fact pockets, which leads into nonfiction reading writing, and our memory pockets, which is personal narrative. And she talks about the different ways that we would use the way we're thinking about our writing for that. We want to take, we started already taking a different approach to journaling, where sometimes we provide prompts, sometimes you write about anything you want, and it's not going to be assessment, it's not going to be a judge, you're just going to write for the period of time that you're writing. And syllable scoops is one piece that we're already diving into, which was inspired by Adrian's work around phonemic decoding, but we're looking at older kids who will stop writing because they can't spell multiple syllable words. So instead of Adrian Gear's dots or lines that she uses, we're doing these little scoops, and we're writing down multisyllabic words for kids that stop writing when they can't use the triple scoop word that they want to use. And that's a work in process. I think we have to have on here.
So we came up with a whole world of action pieces, and everybody is doing a little bit different. So we just wanted to share a few highlights with you. Going with Adrian Gear, we have Megan Petry's class has done a really good job of taking her lessons and incorporating them into everyday real world activities. And so this was some writing from Earth Day that definitely increased their quality of writing. Another real world relevant issue for writing was a crow fell off of the roof and onto the ground and broke its pelvis. So we had a crow expert come, the kids brainstormed ideas, and then they got to do a lot of writing. And so because they named this crow and they fostered this crow back to wellness with this lady, all of a sudden we have really good stamina and really good quality of writing happening. And she also works with the Lions Club that does our breakfast club, so it was also a really good way for her to kind of come into our school and see the kids in a different setting, and vice versa, so it was really cool. Another real world relevant writing prompt was in our grade 1-2 class. Some kids were talking about their dream houses. So that teacher scrapped her writing lesson for the day and got them to draw what their dream house would be, and they were super, super engaged and creative. And then all of a sudden their writing went, from 1 page or half a page to 2 pages. So lots and lots of ideas for engaging them a little bit differently in ways that they are really excited about.
So this is some of the things that came out of our brainstorming, and it's some of the ideas that we really want to jump on. And the big one is our teachers want to be really clear on what the no excuse, like what they absolutely need to come to the next grade able to do. And they want it. We don't want to grab this from somebody else's resource. We want to talk about the data that we've seen, and like at OK Falls, we do have data for our grade 7s that run from kindergarten for some of them. So we want to take a look at that data. We want to take a look at what are we missing and what's the ideal, and build sort of a teacher-driven checklist based on the actual realities in our building on how we can move forward. And everybody's pretty excited about it, actually. Oh, this is so I do push-in supports with I do push-in supports with all the grades, but I work a lot with the K1s. And so we actually started printing like a pro practice work this year. And aside from the mechanics of it and the OT side of it, they're writers. When they sit down there with their pencils and they're working so hard on letter formation, they are writers. And I will tell one little story. There is a little guy who we had not seen him put pencil to paper until the spring of this year, and now he writes largely very creative writing, but he writes and he writes and he writes and he writes all over everything, and he's a writer. He is absolutely a writer. And a lot of it was him being brave enough to do his first few strokes, even though it didn't look perfect, and he got to practice. So it's been pretty transformative for a couple of these kids for sure.
And keeping that book, he gets to see his own progression, which is nice too.
Yeah, the little hinges. Yeah, and so the K1, because the grade 1s are not practicing printing, or not all of them need to be doing that, they are working on, so this is that how do we extend oral into actual writing. So they get to tell a story, draw the story, then write the story that goes with it. And they are all working on this completely independently of a teacher, because the teacher is teaching the printing lesson with the kindergarten kids at this time, and they are all diving right in, doing lots of great writing, doing lots of talking to each other about their writing, lots of storytelling before they write, and it's really quite lovely to watch.
One other exciting thing that's happening right now in our school is we teamed up with our CAC and with Tickleberries. And so came up with some criteria for what they would like to see a writing contest be. And Tickleberries is now donating the ice cream that wins. And so all of the kids got to do at their level, choose what kind of ice cream they would like with whatever they want in it. And a lot of them had to convince us why. So kindergarten started with, creating just what flavors you would like just in their writing, and then it progressed into this for grade 5, and then grade 6 and 7s are great as well. And then we had a winner, so that winner gets to go to Tickleberries and create their ice cream, and then it's being served. Tickleberries has actually donated it for everybody in the school, so on Indigenous Day they're gonna be able to eat the winning ice cream. So it got everybody super engaged and really creative, and got to help their persuasive writing. So it's good. Another way that we got kids really, really engaged, I'm not sure what's going on with that picture, is that there is a new app, and it's called We Will Write. And the kids get to vote. It's a lot like Kahoot, and they get to vote on whose team is winning. So if it's who's the most creative, they write their story or their prompt, they get a picture up there for the kids that made the picture prompt, then they get a little bit of a writing prompt, and then they get to choose who did the best. So sometimes it's persuasive, sometimes it's descriptive, and they get to work on different skills anyway, so it's a really, really fun and engaging way to get kids to up their quality, up their stamina, because that's what's getting kids to vote on them. So that's a lot of fun. And then,
grade 1s and 2s, the same kids that were writing the Dream House writing, they got to go through the editing cycle with their teacher and their EA and publish a written piece, and then they got to read it to their older buddies in the school. Probably one of the most motivating real life reasons to write was that idea that you get to communicate your ideas to somebody who matters to you. It was really motivating for them. It was a lot of genuinely intrinsic motivation to do the best work that they could do. Okay, book extras. Yeah, you go ahead.
okay, so the Book Expo was our grade 6 and 7 classes, and they got to also present this to the whole school. Parents came, and they also got to send it down to the public library, so the community got to see their writing. And because they got to choose a book of their level and their interest, they got a lot of quality and stamina going on there. So it was a fun and engaging activity. And then also this one with it at the bottom was staring at me through the library and into my office, and it's terrifying. But again, because that was his level and his interest, it was super, super engaging, his presentation.
So checking, we are going to revisit empathy interviews. I think that they were the teacher's favorite component of the data that we took a look at. I think there were some surprises in it for the teachers, which is nice around attitudes about writing, because it opens some eyes about it. It isn't because they hate it, right? It isn't necessarily that, so that's good. So we'll revisit those. We're going to formalize the staff check-in, I think, a little bit more than just some chats during tin time. We'll have a more formal process. We're going to look at writing samples. There's some talk about making sure that we have some sort of uniform rubrics per division, just to make sure that we have the same idea of how we're assessing. We've probably 8 years' work. FSA results, report cards, obviously. Checklists for oral skills, like a lot of the people you heard tonight, we're really interested in making sure that we don't undervalue that oral piece, the pre-writing skill around oral. So we want to informal checklist, but to formalize the process for the teachers a bit, and then observations are always, they're celebrations. The observations are celebrations, which is really.
So have we made enough of a difference? We feel like we have. Some of our data is still in the early stages, but just from our FSAs, we see that our grade 4 literacy went up, and our MPI results, well, grade 7 remained the same, so we'll just continue to work on that. Our MPI was increased by 17%, and we just found that teachers found the writing samples were more engaging, the quality was better, and their stamina was